Link TV, connecting you to the world. Link TV is viewer supported. Watch more at linktv.org.
And now let's return to more thoughtful analysis on the situation in the Middle East with our guest, Joel Schalit, and with us with the film Occupied Minds are Jamal Dajani, Link TV Vice President of International News, and David Michaelis, Vice President of Current Affairs. Gentlemen, we were talking about occupation versus apartheid, and I wanted to pose this question to you, David. You mentioned that the anti-apartheid movement, both in the U.S. and around the globe, defined a generation of progressives and activism. Do you think that by tying apartheid and really defining what's happening in the Middle East to apartheid, that it will tap into some more effective activism in order to move the process forward and work toward a more peaceful solution?
Well, I think with some it would work like that. With the Jewish community, I have huge doubts if that will move them. But the turning point, why there's so much more activity now, is a combination of the Gaza War and the Goldstone Report. That made a crucial difference. Although I have to say, and give credit to former President Carter, who broke the taboo on the apartheid word by issuing the book that he did and got huge backlash and censorship.
Well, let me just stop you and back up. The Goldstone Report, why was that really critical?
Because it placed Israel on the same bench as other war criminals, I would say, like in Serbia, and this never happened before, headed by a Jewish, very known lawyer from South Africa, an expert on apartheid, on war crimes. So this was a real tipping point for many on the progressive front who were thinking, how bad really is what Israel is doing.
And let me ask you, Joel, from your perspective, getting more and more activists to be focused effectively on what's going on, how much is it tied to the words that are used to define the conflict right now?
Right now, the words used are everything. Apartheid is not a very accurate word to describe the character of domination that's being practiced by Israel, both within the West Bank and within Israel
You
proper.
think apartheid isn't even strong enough, in other words?
I don't think it captures the complexity of Israel's administration of the occupied territories in tandem with its discrimination against its own Arab citizenry. I think that it's not sophisticated enough, and at a certain point there's going to be a demand for a new kind of language to describe the totality of Israel's discriminatory practices. This said, the fact of the matter is that there is no buzzword that is capable of summoning the kind of moral clarity that people need to get going on the Palestinian question than the word apartheid. That is the paradox.
Well, I wanted to also get your opinion about this, Jamal. When we talk about the way forward, apartheid or peace, how do we effectively get more people in the international community to put the right pressure on? What's your view?
Well, for me, and with all due respect to my friends David and Joel, the question of apartheid is non-theoretical. It starts, for me on the personal level from the moment I land at Ben Gurion Airport, and that happens to millions of Palestinians, of course, living under occupation, whether, during their daily existence, transportation, going from their towns and villages, receiving health care. Everything there is segregated or separated, or it's not on an equal platform. Now, from the international community, and I know that from past experience, when you have someone on the ground, an international goes and lives amongst Palestinians and sees it for the first time, they're usually in shock. They're really in shock because the news right here in the United States, except for Link TV, and my program Mosaic that we show it here Monday through Friday, are the only outlets that gives you an idea of what goes on there and the reality on the ground. But basically, it's glossed over. People are in denial, and that's why when you use that word, apartheid, it shocks everyone. And I say something. If you don't believe it, Go experience it.
Yeah,
and live with amongst Palestinians for a week, and you'll know what I'm talking about. If it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, then it's a duck.
Or watch Mosaic on Link TV, which is the program that you produce every day. You know, I wanted to ask you, Joel, because we're almost out of time, if you could just have one point that you get Americans to get about what is happening in the Middle East and how to really underscore the reporting on mainstream media, what would that be?
I think that Americans need to understand their culpability for the crisis that the Middle East is in. I think that they need to be able to see it not as a consequence of the actions of fundamentalists in the Middle East or of Israelis or of Arabs, but of American power. That the Americans have been in a position of exacerbating crises in the region, if not starting them, and it doesn't seem like Americans are any closer to understanding that. And until Americans get to that point where they can look at themselves and say, we play an enormous role in the misery of the Middle East, and we have for 50, 60 years now, at that point in time, they may be prepared to do something a little more forceful about the situation as it exists than they're doing right now.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And David, you get the last word. My question is, in order to end apartheid in South Africa, activists across the globe and here in the United States did many things, including divestment. Are those strategies the most effective approaches to dealing with this problem?
Well, the issue of boycott, that's how it's seen from Israel, is a very, it's a sword which has a double edge, because boycott has been used against Israel by Arab countries, and it became a very counterproductive. And the question is if the corporate world and mainstream media will understand what's happening through divestment, then it's a good strategy. The question is if this is the best way to go about it. Like if you watch Link TV and you see our counter narrative that Jamal and I bring, if you understand that the terms of peace process and let's have another dialogue are misleading, you need to go and be active. As Jamal suggested, go there and be active on the ground. I find this to be an observer, an international observer, for example, a much more effective way.
In our final seconds, Jamal, anything to add?
Well, again, if you want to understand more about this topic, you really need to watch Link TV. I watched more than 30, 40 channels in the course of a week, and I hardly see these topics discussed anywhere else. And again, this is something provocative, but not for the sake of being provocative, but more to teach you something about what's going on. And I think to learn more about this topic, really, you need to watch Link TV and watch Mosaic and get all the different perspectives and opinions that we provide daily.
Well, absolutely. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Joel, David, and Jamal for really reasoned and thoughtful approach to a very complex problem.
Link TV is the only U.S. network dedicated to global and national news, uncompromising documentaries, and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world. To learn more, visit linktv.org.